guy, which I really love. I mean, there's something about Jack Ryan that I think is such a great hero for right now. He doesn't have a cape. He doesn't have stuff flying out of his hands. He's just a guy.
I've always wanted to do the gym, so now I'm going to have an opportunity to do the gym while the real Jim, aka John Krasinski, is going to talk about how amazing the CIA is and how we should be thanking them every day for the blessings they have bestowed upon the white race.
With his brain and his instincts, and he's trying to figure things out, and there's a little part of us that should all feel like we could be Jack Ryan.
Do you do this often? Kidnapping innocent people off the street and interrogate them?
You're my first one, actually.
I mean, I've been a big fan of Jack Ryan since I was a kid. I was a fan of the books and then big fan of the movies. And in my opinion, he's sort of our James Bond for America. Less sex, but he's our James Bond. I'm a huge fan of the movies, so I've seen them many times, so I decided not to revisit them so immediately for the part. It was really about sort of my idea of what I hoped someone would be in the position that he's in. So I actually just pretend no one has done this role before me. I act shocked when people bring it up.
I am not field personnel. I am only an analyst. You're perfect. Get down! I'm in the CIA.
I've never heard of any of the actors playing Jack Ryan, but my favorite would be Alec Baldwin. Because you always remember your first. And, you know, I just thought Hunt for Red October I remember that being a shift and a change and a different kind of movie. And then, you know, obviously Harrison Ford was amazing too, and he's sort of amazing at everything he does. I'm a huge fan of Harrison Ford's.
I couldn't just stand there and watch him shoot those people. It was rage.
There's something about being less movie version of it and a little bit more real with it, a little more reality bringing to it. When you meet the real people and you hang out with them and you spend a lot of time with them, you realize that the dedication's really in the work. It's got to be a foolproof case that you present before you move forward down the line on any sort of action taken.
Sir, 9/11 cost $500,000. If he is real, what do you think he can do with 20 times that amount of money? We have to chase this down. Once the money's gone, he's gone. I promise you that.
And then the idea of doing it on long-form television was really interesting to me because the pitch to me was maybe movies isn't the best medium for Jack Ryan because you got to pack so much into 2 hours, whereas Tom Clancy's books were so rich with detail and specificity about who he was and what he's going through, so you get to play with a lot more of the same tone that the books had.
Just order a demarche and freeze the account.
Is there anything else?
We've definitely modernized the show and the character. They're not based on the books. They're actually just taking the character and putting him in situations very similar to the books. The books were stories of the moment, so they're slightly dated now because they were very relevant then. All the geopolitical things that are going on in the world, Jack Ryan's sort of a great geopolitical figure to get in the middle of it and sort of lead you through these things you might be reading about in the newspaper. Getting to learn how to row for real was interesting because, you know, it seems really easy when you're on a rower, but then you get on water and it's a whole different ballgame. My wife was shooting Mary Poppins when I first started training on the water, and so I was actually rowing on the Thames, and turns out I was trained by this amazing Olympian, and she said that if you can row the Thames, you can row anywhere because this is actually a really difficult river to row. So, you know, I was literally thrown in the deep end. Going to the CIA and getting to meet different people, certainly being at the building is something that I've always wanted to do. Obviously, I knew that they had dedicated their lives to the idea of the agency, but when you actually meet them, these people are a much more diverse group than you would imagine, a much more apolitical group than you would imagine, which is really refreshing. I think the idea of caring about the country in a bigger, more idealistic way rather than a political way.
I'm not that kind of State Department.
I'm not asking for top secret info. I'm asking which way the wind is blowing. There must have been a memo or something.
That's not quite how it works.
You know, the problem with this self-righteous Boy Scout routine is that one day you're gonna wake up and realize that you've been lying to yourself.
Their job is that they're always trying to do the right thing. There are things that they may feel they don't want to do or feel is not moral to them, so they will not do that certain aspect of the mission. There's always a different way to find out the information you're trying to get. And I just, again, I was so relieved and sort of honored to be there among a group of people who are so dedicated to the rest of us.
Oh yeah, sorry. So that's of course John Krasinski talking about the CIA and the glory be. All hail the CIA. They've been doing wonderful things throughout human history for the benefit of mankind. Of course, one of the greatest organizations ever to fall upon our good graces. Yes, absolutely. So this was back in 2017. So this was a long time ago. We were so innocent back then. We didn't even know what COVID was, and Bernie Sanders was just a twinkle in our eyes, and, things were going to happen, and blah, blah, blah. Donald Trump had just been elected. It was 1 year into the whole thing. Anyways, 2017. CIA chief hints the agency is working to change Venezuelan government. Ooh, interesting. So this is way back in the Wayback Machine. But this is, of course, there's no correlation between what is happening right now in Venezuela directly and attributing it to the CIA. And one big problem I think the left has is that they don't really understand geopolitics. I mean, a lot of them are just so far up their own theory asses that they're like, well, Marx can explain everything through class reductionism. And it's like, well, yes, but do you understand what's happening right now on the other end of the world? And most of them will be like, well, yes, that's actually has a lot to do with class reductionism. Oh, by the way, happy birthday, Karl Marx. It's Karl Marx's birthday today. I believe 202 or maybe 203. I don't know. He real old. But I mean, much like North Korea, we are going to be worshiping him for all time, even in death. So he will be our new god in his many forms. 202, 250. Ooh, I'm getting all kinds of numbers thrown out all around here. Well, yeah, get those dancing neos in the chat. If you have some dabbing neos, I don't know why we would do it. It has nothing to do with Karl Marx. But if you have the dabbing neo emote, you can do a little dabbing neo to represent, it has nothing to do with Karl Marx. There's no correlation between the two, but of course, he's long living. Cinco de Mayo. Oh yeah, happy Cinco de Mayo. That's also true. Anyways, sorry, totally unrelated. Totally unrelated here. So the U.S. has a long bloody history of meddling in Latin American affairs. Likely story. The head of the CIA has suggested the agency is working to change the elected government of Venezuela and is collaborating with 2 countries in the region to do so. And one of the clearest clues yet about Washington's latest meddling in the politics of Latin America, CIA Director Mike Pompeo said he was hopeful that there's a transition in Venezuela and the CIA, is doing its best to understand the dynamic there. He added, I was just down in Mexico City and in Bogota a week before, and I was talking about this very issue, trying to help them understand the things that they might do so they can get a better outcome for their part in the world and our part in the world. Well, that sounds nice, hey? It's like we want to help you help yourselves, so we want to make your country better for the benefit of you, and only you. It has nothing to do with us or your vast quantities of oil, but we're not going to talk about that. That's superficial, and that's just what, pinko leftist commies like to talk about, as if there's some kind of value in having enormous reserves of the world's most popular energy source. Anyways, Mr. Pompeo's comments delivered during a Q&A session at a security forum organized by the Aspen Institute think tank has sparked outcry amongst supporters of the Venezuelan government. President Nicolas Maduro, who was elected in 2013, has denounced Mr. Pompeo's remarks and hit out the governments of Mexico and Colombia. The director of the CIA has said the CIA and the U.S. government work in direct collaboration with the Mexican government and the Colombian government to overthrow the constitutional government in Venezuela and to intervene in our beloved Venezuela. Mr. Maduro said, I demand the government of Mexico and the government of Colombia to properly clarify the declarations from the CIA, and I will make political and diplomatic decisions according for this audacity. So, this is way back in 2017. Again, there's no correlation between the CIA directly and what's happening in Venezuela today, although it is curious that we have moments, I don't have it ready, but let's just say Guaido, State of the Union.
That's why my administration reversed the failing policies of the previous administration on Cuba. We are supporting the hopes of Cubans, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans to restore democracy. The United States is leading a 59-nation diplomatic coalition against the socialist dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro.
And I'm sad to say that 59-nation coalition happens to have Canada in there because, of course, neoliberal Trudeau is more than happy to engage in this little overthrow of a democratically elected president. It's just they're a small garbage country, and it doesn't matter to us. Okay, they're dirty people, and we don't really care about their democratic elections or democracy at all. I mean, we purport to talk about democracy and that we love it, and we want to further democracy around the world through certain means. But first, we got to get rid of the bad choice. You see, the democratically elected president, that was a bad pick. They picked wrong, so we're going to get rid of that one, and we're going to put in our new superhero. Hey, Yas Queen's... Oh, everyone's clapping. Look at this. Even the Yas Queen is clapping. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Everyone loves this shit.
A tyrant who brutalizes his people. But Maduro's grip on tyranny will be smashed and broken.
Smashed.
Here this evening is a very brave man who carries with him the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of all Venezuelans.
Who could it be?
Joining us in the gallery is the true and legitimate president of Venezuela, Juan Guaido. Mr. President, please take this.
Look at how excited the Yas Queen is at this moment, celebrating a man who just declared that he was president. Like, he was just like, by the way, I'm president now. And of course, because that aligns very strongly with what the United States wants, they were like, yes, he's our man. And hey, again, the CIA, not directly involved in any of this, but you can definitely tell the differences between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party right here, in this single image. Look at this unadulterated joy. She's rubbing her belly in happiness.
Message back to you.
So again, nothing to see here, just the State of the Union propping up what is going to become, I guess, the new leader of a foreign country that had autonomy at one point. But that's fine. This is just, it's totally normal. There's nothing to see. And again, there's no correlation between, the thirst and hunger. You can see what's in all of their eyes. I mean, look at these, like this guy especially right now. He's like, hey, there he is. Get him in there. Let's get that fucking oil, baby. So this was the last State of the Union address, and Donald Trump was touting Juan Guaido. I thought at the time, I was like, well, this is brazen. I mean, at least we live in a time now where the narrative doesn't have to be crafted. You don't have to have people behind the scenes being like, well, I think it might be a little bit suspect that the United States is backing unilaterally someone who is just purporting to become the new president of an autonomous country who hasn't been democratically elected. And again, I'm not going to stand here and defend Maduro. I think Maduro's done a ton of fucked up shit as well. There's a lot of stuff to be said about Maduro's attempts to seize control and power, especially through the Supreme Court of Venezuela. But that being said, that doesn't change the fact that Maduro was democratically elected, and Guaido has just said, I'm the president now. So whether or not you can just do that, if that's just a rule that's going to change, I mean, sure. I guess we live in unusual times. Now, fast forward to yesterday. Venezuela detains 2 U.S. citizens over speedboat incursion. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro says the 2 U.S. citizens have been arrested following what he says is an attempt to overthrow him. Mr. Maduro said the 2 men were part of a group of mercenaries whose armed incursion into Venezuela by sea has been foiled on Sunday. Mr. Maduro has often accused the U.S. of trying to overthrow him, but U.S. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday the Venezuelan situation has nothing to do with our government. Cool. Well, I mean, case closed, right? There's nothing more to see here, obviously. What does the Maduro government say happened? Venezuelan authorities say 8 armed men were killed Sunday over an alleged coup attempt. In a live broadcast on Monday, Mr. Maduro displayed what he said were the passports of 2 arrested Americans, Aaron Barry and Luke Denman, who work for a Florida-based security company. He told the viewers they were playing Rambo. They were playing hero. The Venezuelan government said the group of terrorist mercenaries had left Colombia and landed on the town of Macuto, about 21 miles north of the capital Caracas, on Sunday before they were intercepted and arrests were made. Attorney General Tarek William Saab tweeted on Sunday saying the group were seeking to cause a coup and an assassination attempt. He shared photos of the bullets and guns that were seized according to them and the Venezuelan Special Forces. But who are the detained U.S. citizens? Not much is known about Luke Denman, 34, and Aaron Barry, 41. Venezuelan military high command said the pair were members of the U.S. security forces. The U.S. media has suggested they are former members, but this has not been confirmed. When they were asked on Tuesday morning, Mr. Trump said, we'll find out. We just heard about it, adding they had no government connection. John Goudreau, a former member of the U.S. Army Special Forces, has, however, been quick to claim an association. He told Reuters news agency, they're working with me, those are my guys. Mr. Goudreau, who leads a Florida-based private security firm called Silvercorp USA, said he was one of the plot's organizers. So why is a man from Florida involved? According to a recent investigation by the Associated Press news agency, Mr. Goudreau has become involved with a group of retired Venezuelan military men who have allegedly been training deserters from Venezuelan security forces at secret camps in Colombia. They've reportedly plotted previous cross-border incursions which failed to get off the ground. The plan is said to have involved raiding military bases in the hope of igniting a popular rebellion that would end in the ousting of the president. In the report released Friday, the Associated Press said it had no evidence of U.S. government involvement in these plots. Of course not. Nothing to see here. It's just two U.S. ex-military special forces, one who had a tour in Iraq, one who had a tour in Afghanistan, both of which are involved in what seems to be a soft or hard coup, depending on how far they would have taken it. But again, no correlation whatsoever with the U.S. government itself, just two random American special forces, private Silver Corp members doing what they do best, I suppose. So what is happening now? Mr. Grudeau has also released a video in which he referred to a daring and amphibious raid and has gone deep into the heart of Caracas, adding that the various units have been deactivated across the country and we're now fighting. There's been no evidence that any fighting is underway or any group made it to Caracas. He has not mentioned killing President Maduro was an objective, as the government has claimed. So what's the background to this? Mr. Grudeau has also repeatedly made claims of past associations with Mr. Guaido, who's recognized by more than 50 countries as Venezuela's legitimate leader. On Monday, Mr. Guaido denied having anything to do with the ex-Green Beret. In a statement, he said he has no relationship nor responsibility for any of the actions taken by the U.S. war veteran. He also accused President Maduro's administration of trying to distract people from recent outbreaks of violence, including a deadly prison riot on Friday and a gang battle in Caracas on Saturday night. That deadly prison riot resulted in the deaths of about 40 people, by the way. It's absolutely horrifying and atrocious. Mr. Guaido has the backing of Washington, which has vowed to use tough sanctions to force President Maduro and the Socialist Party out of office. So, I am not going to read too much into this. It's curious, to say the least. No way we can ever truly know what happened or what is happening.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Or where the U.S. would
Great
land on
honor.
this.
Thank you very much.
I did read, though, yesterday on Twitter that Bo was going to make a video about this.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again.
Oh, Lexter, I beat you to it.
So today we are going to talk about changes in leadership and how sometimes they don't happen, because we just got a master class in that. We basically just had a spy novel unfold here in Florida and Venezuela. Understand this is a developing situation. Some of the information that I'm about to say may change as time goes on and more information comes out. However, I think I've got a good enough handle on it to answer the burning question of whether or not the U.S. government was involved in this.
So, everyone who doesn't know, by the way, Bo has a long history in both military as well as photojournalism. He was a photojournalist for a very long time. The pictures that Bo, the fifth column, has taken, particularly at Antifa rallies, and he did that, I believe, 6 or 7 years ago, maybe even 8 years ago, those pictures are still used today for modern Antifa rallies. And he's got a video on it where he's like, by the way, when I, as a journalist, would sell the rights to my pictures and I would sell them to a giant database, that database has those pictures that anyone can now license. So he's like, it's very curious to me in 2020 how I still see my 8-year-old pictures appearing in news articles. And there's no footnote that ever says this is an 8-year-old picture underneath it or something to that effect. We don't have laws in place to say that. But he's like, it is very curious. And if you're trying to craft a narrative and you're trying to use my old pictures as some kind of like, this proves Antifa is X, he's like, you should have to, I think for journalistic integrity, at least add that this photo is not relevant to the story and or did not appear or have to take place during this picture. Something I thought was really curious. I hadn't heard of it before until Bo pointed that out.
If you have no idea what I'm talking about right now, it's because it's buried in the news cycle, really. In normal circumstances, this would be front page news. This would be a big deal. But it's 2020 and, there's a lot going on. So it's kind of been buried. Rough storyline is that apparently it's a
North American problem, Twitchbite, apparently.
Florida, of course, Florida. Silver Corp USA, led by a guy named Goudreau, contracted with Venezuelan opposition groups to politically realign that country. And by politically realign, I mean overthrow, oust Maduro. It appears, and it's reported, that some of their people have been captured by Venezuelan authorities. The the question everybody wants to know is the U.S. government involved in this? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. Not because they wouldn't. They most certainly would. In fact, they very well may have an operation going on down there right now with this goal. But I don't think they were involved in this one. They may have been aware of it and just kind of turned a blind eye to it because they didn't think it would amount to anything. And it now has amounted to an international incident. Okay. So, the guy running Silvercorp USA has apparently made statements to the press about what's going on. Go ahead and tell you that's really rare. It is not normal for a contracting company to discuss an ongoing event with the press. That's unusual. In that reporting, it was disclosed that they had a $212 million contract, of which they apparently received $50,000 and started working. If you're not familiar with the industry, $50,000 is enough to get a high-end security detail for a day. It is not enough to begin something this significant on this scale. Some of the photos released by Venezuelan authorities.
Grab account Max. Thanks for resubscribing with that Twitch Prime. Using the Twitch Prime for good, not for evil. I appreciate it. And hey, anyone else?
K comrade Bezobucks for comrade Lance K comrade.
Agreed. And anyone else, if you have Twitch Prime, connect it to your account, and then you can subscribe to the channel for free, and you take that money away from Jeff Bezos and put it into the show. So please, if you have your Twitch Prime, use it. You can also gift Twitch Prime, I think, subs to other people. I don't know. I haven't gone that far. It's probably a whole thing.
Also tend to back up the idea that they were underfunded. They released some photos of their equipment. It does not appear that they had a lot of financial resources. The U.S. government, when they are dealing with contractors, they throw money at them. You will run out of everything before you run out of money. And they'll give it to you in cash. The general reason for the U.S. government to use outside people, private citizens, not active duty military, not intelligence people, private citizens to do something like this is to maintain plausible deniability. Because of that, they are willing to pay a premium. Okay. That plausible deniability also factors into some other things. Generally, when they contract with people to do this kind of crazy stuff, something this secretive, something this outlandish, they tend to hand those jobs to companies that are very discreet. They may not have a website. If they do have a website, it certainly doesn't say, hey, we're military contractors. It probably focuses on training, or maybe even just a little blurb about crisis mitigation, something like that. The Silvercorp USA website is pretty descriptive about what they do and describes some controversial services. So it's probably not a firm the U.S. government would contract with for this type of stuff. The other thing is plausible deniability, right? Generally, companies that are handed these kind of contracts do not have USA in their name. The names are normally very bland. They don't really even they don't even reference anything remotely untoward. They're normally very, very bland, very nondescript, very innocent names. There are some exceptions to this, but normally they're huge companies that have USA in the title or something like that, that take big public contracts and then, they have a second tier that does the crazy secret stuff. This does not appear to be one of those companies. All of that leads us to believe that it's probably not government-backed. It does not appear so. The State Department denial means nothing. Okay, The fact that they were underfunded does. Aside from that, in the apparent interview and in the statements to the press, Goudreau said how many people they had in Venezuela. That is also really rare, really unusual, very bizarre. Generally speaking, you do not want to give up troop numbers. There is a possibility that he is attempting to engage in disinformation and say, oh, we only had X number of people there, you caught them all, and there's other people trying to get away right now. That's a possibility. But given everything else, I don't know how likely that is.
Congrats, Dream. Big get.
Aside from that, he laid out the plan and said that it was to... primary objective
Bo is being
was
careful
to get Maduro and secure Caracas with a few hundred people. That's really ambitious.
Hey, Orb Lady.
And then the secondary objective would be to mount an insurgency. I have a feeling him saying that is going to haunt him the rest of his life, because he has people in custody right now. I am fairly certain that in Venezuela, mounting an insurgency against the Venezuelan government is probably illegal. He very well may have given the Venezuelan government everything that they needed. That was probably an unwise statement. This appears to be something that is completely private. A private affair, people that were maybe got in over their heads. Looks like something that was hatched on the fly and started moving. There may be an ideological motivation in it for him and his men. The odds of a contractor taking a job this significant for what amounts to no pay, because $50,000 sounds like a lot, but when you're dividing it up amongst people and you're talking about travel expenses and you're talking about the risk associated with something like this, that's nothing. That is not even remotely close to enough. So there may be an ideological motivation there that comes into play. I would suggest that this is something that's probably going to be made a movie at some point in time, because it is that bizarre. This is not the type of thing that normally happens within this industry. There are already a few contractors saying,
all right, everybody, because there's 250 people's watching right now. Hey, 250 people's. That's good to see all y'all. Hello. Hey, dude, do me a little favor. Give Camazot's Altar, Freems, I think $27, and Desert Rat 4. Go give them a follow. They stream too, and they're all fun streamers. They'll give you good streams for the dreams.
That they don't want them to be called contractors. They want them to use another word that starts with an M.
Bo's mad based.
And that's a debate people can have.
I think Bo's an actual... he's further to the left than I am. I think he's an anarchist.
I would take this opportunity to suggest that the United States should be very hands-off.
Oh, we'll get it to 420.
If people actually believe their rhetoric and they're concerned about the welfare of the Venezuelan people, I would suggest the best thing to do would be to stop stifling their economy. Economies all over the world are in trouble right now. They don't need additional problems. I would also point out that Venezuelan intelligence apparently knew everything. And to have that kind of sourcing and that level of infiltration within a dissident movement means you have a lot of loyalty from the people. You don't get that kind of information without having a lot of sources, without having a lot of people who are on your side. And Venezuelan intelligence is actually making jokes in some of these articles about how they had to pay for some of the meetings to take place, like fund the people meeting so they could find out more information.
You. Yes, you. Do you like cozy environments with other wholesome people? Well, then come join the Discord. It's got a whole bunch of stuff to help you with creative endeavors, such as stock footage, royalty-free music, and an amazing community of people looking to help each other out and uplift your content. Join the Discord now by going to weareserfs.com. That's weareserfs.com.
We would like to thank Miranda Marone. You are our monarch, and we thank you for our indentured servitude. We would like to thank our lords, Ricky Pilgrim, I'm Raft, Michaela Schmid, Tomospin, Farrer Tahone, you are all the pillars of our organization. To our Knights of the Square Table, Paul Parafit, Daniel Kahn, Clement Chutskoth, Alan R., Josh Mickelson, and Dr. Zayas, Cooper Pilot, Andrea Lynn Epperly, Dylan Bythe, Terry, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. And to our merchants, thank you for taking mercy upon us.